Hello, gearheads. There was a time when the world forgot that Toyota could make your pulse race. A time when precision overtook passion, when every car felt engineered to last forever, but never to set your heart on fire. They called it reliable, sensible, predictable. But beneath that layer of beige perfection, something was stirring. Because even when the world moved on toward comfort, convenience, and quiet, Toyota's soul never stopped listening to the sound of its own heartbeat. And one man, a racer in a business suit, decided that the heartbeat of a company should not be a whisper, but a roar. This is the story of rebellion born from reliability. Of a carmaker that refused to let its legend fade into silence. And of a badge, two simple letters that reignited an empire. From beige to ballistic. This is Toyota's rise from restraint to rage. And this is Gear Pulse Insight. For decades, Toyota represented something close to engineering enlightenment. The company was built upon the philosophy of Kaizen, a belief that perfection was not an achievement, but a pursuit. Every nut, every bolt, every component was a reflection of precision and humility. Toyotas did not shout, they endured. They did not beg for attention. They earned respect, one flawless startup at a time. Through the late 20th century, Toyota mastered dependability. It became a byword for longevity, the brand you could trust to take you to work, to raise a family, to last longer than you might. Its engines were tuned not for thrill, but for time. The Corolla became an institution, the Camry a standard of quiet excellence. Every model seemed built to outlive its owner, but rarely to quicken their pulse. And in a way, that was the point. Toyota was never chasing the glamour of European performance or American muscle. It was chasing immortality through quality cars that would run forever, never falter, and never ask for praise. Yet perfection can become a prison. As decades passed, something quietly vanished, an essence, a heartbeat that once fueled the company's spirit. Because long before the beige era of practical sedans and family-friendly SUVs, Toyota had a wilder side. It had created machines that tore through rally stages, drifted through corners, and challenged giants on the world's circuits. Cars like the Supra, the Celica GT4, and the MR2 names that carried the sound of excitement in every syllable. But one by one, those names disappeared. The Supra vanished in the late 1990s. The Celica followed. The MR2, too. In their place came hybrids, minivans, and sedans that sold by the millions, but left enthusiasts cold. Toyota, it seemed, had chosen evolution over emotion, survival over sensation. And yet, in every great story of transformation, there is always a moment before the storm, a moment when silence becomes unbearable. Inside Toyota's headquarters, amidst the efficiency and calm, one man was growing restless. He was part of the family that had built this empire, but he was also a racer. He had seen the world's circuits, felt the vibration of engines beneath his hands, and he knew what had been lost. Akio Toyoda looked around at the company his grandfather had built and saw greatness without glory. He believed that the machines bearing the Toyota badge had forgotten how to feel. And so he made a vow that would transform not just the company, but the very soul of Japanese performance forever. That vow would be simple: no more boring cars. But for Toyota to reignite its fire, it first had to remember what made it burn in the first place. Because while the public saw dependable sedans and family crossovers, deep within its archives, Toyota still had something extraordinary. A history forged in rally dust, endurance oil, and roaring engines. And that was where the comeback would begin. Every great transformation begins not with a committee or a calculation, but with a conviction. For Toyota, that conviction belonged to one man, Akio Toyoda. When he stepped into leadership, Toyota was a titan, financially unshakable, globally admired, and almost too perfect. Its cars moved millions of people but stirred few souls. For a company that had once conquered rally stages and raced across deserts, it now found itself confined by its own success. But Akio was different. He was not merely an executive. He was a driver, a man who could sense the rhythm of an engine, who understood that a car's character was not defined by spreadsheets, but by feel. He believed that Toyota had forgotten the art of driving. He once said that when he looked at his company's cars, he saw machines that performed flawlessly but rarely moved people. So he began a quiet rebellion within the corporation. One not fought with slogans or boardroom declarations, but with a steering wheel. In the mid-2000s, while others saw him as the heir to an empire, Akio saw himself as a student of the tarmac. He entered endurance races under the pseudonym Maurizio, not to disguise his identity, but to escape expectation. Behind the wheel of a humble Toyota Altezza, the Japanese version of the Lexus IS, he learned once again what his company's engineers had forgotten: that performance is not a specification, it is a sensation. Those early laps were not glamorous. The cars broke down, the results were modest. But what mattered was not the podium, it was the purpose. Because for the first time in decades, Toyota was learning by competing again. The engineers who joined him began to understand the brutal truth of motorsport, that innovation is born not from comfort, but from failure, fatigue, and fire. And in that crucible, something began to take shape. An idea, a division, a philosophy. It would be called Gazoo Racing. The name Gazoo came from an old Toyota website, Gazoo.com, once a humble digital garage for car listings. But the word meant more than that. In Japanese, Gazoo means image, and for Akio Toyoda, Gazoo Racing was the image of what Toyota could become again, a company that raced not for prestige, but for progress. He built the division with a simple purpose: to create ever better cars through the harshest possible testing ground, real-world racing. Not marketing, not simulation, but competition. Because when a machine is pushed to its limit, its weaknesses reveal themselves. And when engineers face those weaknesses, they return stronger. That was the Gazoo philosophy. Win or lose, you learn. From endurance events to rally stages, from the Nürburgring 24 hours to the Dakar Rally, Toyota began sending its cars and its people back into the fight. Each race became a classroom, each failure a teacher. And as those lessons filtered back into production lines, the first spark of transformation began to glow within Toyota's DNA once more. Inside the company, things were changing. Departments that once focused solely on comfort and durability began to study suspension geometry, throttle mapping, and weight distribution with new reverence. Young engineers who grew up admiring European performance brands were now tasked with building something that could rival them not in luxury, but in passion. Toyota, the quiet giant, was learning to speak the language of excitement again, and that language would soon be spoken fluently through a new badge. It began modestly. A letter, then another. Together, they would become the modern heartbeat of Toyota performance. Those two letters were not designed for vanity or visual flair. They were a declaration, a statement that this was not just a trim line, not a marketing badge, but a belief system. GR was a promise that every car wearing it would be born from competition, refined on circuits, and built by people who understood that driving is both art and science. Akio Toyoda had achieved what few corporate leaders ever could. He had reignited the human spirit within a machine. He had turned an engineering institution back into a racing team. By the early 2010s, the results were visible. Toyota's test tracks, once used purely for endurance and efficiency, now echoed with the sounds of cornering limits being explored. Design studios began sketching lower, wider silhouettes again. The conservative hum of predictability was giving way to the symphony of experimentation. And the world started noticing, because this was no ordinary corporate revival. This was a philosophical rebirth, a story of a car maker rediscovering its forgotten identity through grit and gears. Gazoo Racing was not Toyota's marketing department, it was its soul department, and its work had only just begun. As the engines grew louder and the badges began to shine, Toyota was about to step back onto the global stage, not as a nostalgic name, but as a reborn force. And soon, a new generation of machines would carry that spirit forward, each one forged in competition, each one wearing those two sacred letters, GR, because when passion meets precision, history repeats itself, but louder. When a sleeping giant awakens, it does not do so quietly. It shakes the ground beneath it, not with noise, but with intent. By the early 2010s, Gazoo Racing had matured from a daring experiment into a relentless movement within Toyota. Its presence was growing not as a marketing sub-brand, but as a beating heart pulsing through the company's veins. The time had come for Toyota to step back into the arena that had once defined its spirit, the World Rally Championship. Rallying had always been Toyota's crucible, a proving ground where endurance met precision and chaos met control. During the 1990s, Toyota had ruled the forests and gravel with cars like the Celica GT4 and the Corolla WRC. It had won 3 manufacturers' championships in 1993, 1994, and 1999, and had earned a reputation as a fearless challenger to European legends like Lancia, Ford, and Subaru. But after its withdrawal at the turn of the millennium, the name Toyota vanished from the rally circuits for nearly 2 decades. Its engines grew silent, its spirit dormant, until 2017 when the silence broke. Under the guidance of Tommy Mäkinen, a legend of rallying himself, Toyota made a thunderous return. The newly formed Toyota Gazoo Racing World Rally Team set up camp in central Finland, the very homeland of rally heritage, where frozen lakes, gravel tracks, and unrelenting conditions became Toyota's new classroom. And from that Nordic wilderness, something remarkable emerged, a new symbol of Toyota's renaissance. From the outside, it looked almost modest, compact, lightweight, and unlike anything else on the road. But beneath its unassuming form, the GR Yaris was a weapon engineered not for showrooms, but for rally stages. It was built with a singular purpose: to win. With its 1.6-liter turbocharged inline-3 engine, developing 268 horsepower, and its all-wheel drive system, the GR Yaris was the essence of Gazoo Racing, distilled into metal and motion. It was not a watered-down street version of a race car, it was the race car, adapted just enough to wear number plates. Akio Toyoda's philosophy had reached its purest form. The GR Yaris was proof that Toyota no longer built cars to follow trends. It built them to make statements. Its chassis was part rally, part science experiment light where it could be, strong where it must be. The engine was small but fierce, revving with the kind of immediacy that recalled the golden age of Group A rally monsters. Even the driving position felt intentional, low, centered, intimate. It demanded participation, not passive driving. Toyota engineers referred to it as a homologation special, but for drivers around the world, it became something far greater, a reminder that driving could still be visceral, personal, and human. It was the anti-appliance. And in a world increasingly drawn toward electrification and automation, the GR Yaris felt like rebellion in motion. When the GR Yaris hit the stages, it did not whisper its arrival, it howled. In competition, its rally variant, the GR Yaris Rally, too carried Toyota's momentum forward. And on the world stage, the GR Yaris Rally 1 Hybrid became a technological marvel, combining internal combustion power with hybrid efficiency to create a machine that felt almost alive. The results were breathtaking. Toyota Gazoo Racing won the manufacturer's championship 5 consecutive times between 2021 and 2025. And with Kalle Rovanperä, the young Finnish prodigy, they found their new hero, a driver who embodied the raw, fearless DNA that Toyota had once built its empire upon. Rovanperä's back-to-back world championships in 2023 and 2024 were not just victories on paper, they were poetic confirmations that Toyota was back at the top of the motorsport world, that the name once associated with reliability was now synonymous with relentless speed. Rallying had done more than crown Toyota with trophies, it had reawakened its very identity. Because when you strip away the technology, the sponsors, and the spectacle, rallying is still about one simple truth: control within chaos. And that was exactly what Toyota had mastered again. The GR Yaris did more than just win races. It became a cultural phenomenon. In Japan, it sold faster than Toyota could build it. In Europe, it was hailed as the spiritual successor to the classic rally icons of the 90s. And even in regions where it never officially went on sale, like the United States, it became an instant legend. Its DNA, however, did cross the Pacific. Toyota took everything it had learned from the Yaris and poured it into the GR Corolla, a car built with the same heart, but a broader appeal. It was more powerful, with 300 horsepower, and yet retained the rally-bred personality of its smaller sibling. The message was unmistakable. Toyota was no longer chasing the competition, it was defining it. The secret to this rebirth lay not in technology alone, but in philosophy. Gazoo Racing approached every challenge with one mantra: the road builds the people, and the people build the cars. It was never about creating fast cars for the sake of numbers. It was about understanding why speed mattered, why emotion mattered, why connection mattered. Through countless races, test laps, and sleepless nights, Toyota rediscovered something that could not be measured in horsepower or torque: the joy of driving. The kind of joy that once made a teenager's bedroom wall glow with posters of the Celica GT4 or made fans chant Supra at car meets decades later. This was Toyota reclaiming its place in history not as Japan's most practical car maker, but as its performance powerhouse. And yet, the story did not end on the rally stage. Because for every Yaris that tore through gravel, there were other machines built through collaboration, crafted through passion, that would take the GR philosophy beyond dirt and into the realm of global sports car legend. Those machines would carry the spirit of Gazoo Racing into the hearts of enthusiasts everywhere. Machines with names like Supra and GR86, and their story was just beginning. When a philosophy takes root, it does not remain confined to one branch. It spreads into every conversation, every design sketch, every line of code, and every corner of a company. For Toyota, Gazoo Racing had begun as a spark of rebellion, but now it was a force of evolution shaping not just cars, but the way Toyota thought, built, and dreamed. By the early 2020s, the GR badge had become more than a performance emblem. It had become a promise, a declaration that every model wearing it would carry a pulse, a story, and a soul. Yet to truly redefine itself as Japan's AMG, Toyota needed to go beyond nostalgia. It needed to evolve its machines for a new generation, while honoring the old one. And that evolution would arrive not from isolation but through collaboration. Few names in Toyota's history evoke the same emotion as Supra. It was the symbol of 90s performance, the poster pinned above countless beds, the car that bridged generations of enthusiasts. When the Supra vanished in the late 1990s, it left behind a void not just in Toyota's lineup, but in its legacy. For years, whispers circulated of a revival. But when it finally returned in 2019, it came with something unexpected: collaboration. Toyota had partnered with BMW, blending German engineering with Japanese philosophy. Some called it controversial, others called it genius. But Akio Toyoda's vision was clear. The goal was not to copy the past, but to recapture its emotion through modern means. The new GR Supra shared its platform and powertrain with BMW's Z4, yet its spirit was distinctly Toyota. Every steering angle, every throttle response, every shift was tuned through Gazoo Racing's unique sense of feel. The intangible harmony between machine and motion. It was no longer about which components were shared, it was about what philosophy guided them. And when drivers finally took the wheel, they felt it, that unmistakable connection between car and driver, reborn after 2 decades of silence. The Supra was back, not as a ghost of its past, but as a statement of Toyota's future. While the Supra aimed to thrill the grand tourer crowd, another creation spoke to the purists, the drivers who sought simplicity, feedback, and mechanical truth. Enter the GR86. Developed in collaboration with Subaru, it was Toyota's tribute to the analog age. Rear-wheel drive, naturally aspirated, lightweight, and available with a manual gearbox. It was not about outright speed, it was about balance. The GR86 was engineered to dance, to make every corner feel like a conversation. It represented the other side of the GR philosophy, that true performance is not measured in seconds, but in smiles. Together, the GR Supra and GR86 formed the twin pillars of Toyota's new sports car renaissance. One a powerful rebirth of legend, the other a poetic reminder that simplicity can still move the soul. Both were proof that Gazoo Racing had become more than a department. It was now a belief system shared across continents, partners, and generations. Gazoo Racing was never just a badge to sell faster cars. It was a redefinition of what Toyota meant. Across the company, engineers began to adopt a racer's mindset, to think beyond reliability and efficiency, and toward engagement and emotion. Prototypes were no longer judged only by their fuel economy or emissions, but by their feel. Toyota test drivers, many of whom were racers themselves, began to evaluate every car with a single question: does it make the driver feel alive? This philosophy rippled through every layer of Toyota's structure. From city compacts to hybrid SUVs, the design language became sharper, more purposeful. The materials, the ergonomics, the tuning, everything began to whisper that same Gazoo spirit: precision with passion. Today, the GR badge adorns an entire family of machines, each a different expression of performance. From the GR Corolla, born from rally dust and forged for the streets, to the GR Supra, sculpted for grand touring glory, and the GR86, carrying the spirit of simplicity, the lineage is growing, evolving, and inspiring. But the division's reach extends far beyond asphalt. Toyota Gazoo Racing also dominates the deserts of Dakar, conquers endurance circuits like Le Mans, and develops hybrid systems that bridge the gap between power and sustainability. And behind all these victories lies one unshakable principle: motorsport as laboratory, not luxury. Gazoo Racing's purpose is not to decorate showrooms with trophies. It is to infuse every Toyota, from a Yaris to a Hilux, with lessons learned from the edge of possibility. Even as the automotive world shifts toward electrification, Toyota's GR division remains grounded in its core belief that emotion and innovation can coexist. Rumors swirl of GR-tuned hybrids, perhaps even a GR Prius, proof that performance and responsibility no longer need to be opposites. Meanwhile, Toyota's engineers continue to explore how electric motors can deliver not just instant torque, but genuine driving feel. Akio Toyoda's vision has transcended the combustion engine. It has become about preserving the connection between man and machine, no matter the medium. Because the spirit of Gazoo racing is not fuel-dependent, it is emotion-dependent. It is the human heartbeat translated into mechanical rhythm. And as Toyota continues to evolve, one truth remains unchanged: that driving should never be merely about transport. It should be about transformation. From its beige beginnings of quiet perfection to the ballistic roar of modern GR machines, Toyota's story has come full circle. It has rediscovered its courage, its creativity, and its competitive edge. And as the world stands on the brink of a new automotive era, Toyota's philosophy reminds us of something timeless: that passion is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Because when machines are made with emotion, they cease to be tools. They become experiences. They become art. Once upon a time, Toyota built cars that lasted forever. Today, it builds cars that make forever feel alive. This is not the tale of a brand that changed. It is the story of one that remembered who it was. From the quiet hum of beige sedans to the explosive symphony of turbocharged GR machines, Toyota has done what few dared. It turned reliability into rebellion. Because when Akio Toyoda declared, "No more boring cars," he did not issue a slogan. He sounded an alarm. He reminded an empire that machines should feel as human as the hands that build them. Gazoo racing was never just an experiment. It was a revolution dressed in carbon fiber. A promise carved into every piston and welded into every chassis that wears those two letters, GR. From the frozen forests of Finland to the endless sands of Dakar, from the sweat of pit lanes to the glow of factory floors, Toyota learned that excellence without emotion is just endurance. But when precision meets passion, you create performance with purpose. That is why the GR Yaris does not just drive, it dares. That is why the GR Supra does not just move, it moves you. Because when a company stops asking, "How do we build a perfect car?" and starts asking, "How do we build a car that makes people feel again?" that is when engineering becomes art. Every badge, every roar, every turn of the wheel is proof that Toyota no longer hides behind silence. It races with intent. It builds with emotion. And it stands today as Japan's loudest heartbeat in the world of performance. From beige to ballistic, from restraint to rage, from dependable to divine. This is Toyota reborn, not as a company, but as a creed. And as the dust settles, as engines cool, and as legends are written, one truth still burns in the air. When you drive a GR, you are not just moving forward. You are carrying history with you. Toyota has proven that reliability and rebellion can coexist, that discipline can breed desire, and that a car maker known for silence can roar louder than ever before. Because sometimes, the most powerful revolutions begin not with chaos, but with control. This has been a journey through passion, precision, and performance. This is Gear Pulse Insight, where every engine has a story, and every story has a soul.